Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast Live. My name is John, and tonight is Star Wars night. We are going to talk about Andor, specifically Season 2. We'll be spoilery about all of that. So hopefully you're caught up. To talk about this, we are going to have two Star Wars experts, Dustin and Pete. Welcome. Oh, Dustin and Boba Fett, excuse me. Welcome to the show, guys.
Well, Pete's already obviously outdone me on proving that he's a Star Wars expert, so I think I'll just go get my Obi-Wan Kenobi outfit and I'll run back.
Yeah. He's no good to me, dead. Yeah. Very nice.
Sacrilegious. The Mandalorian took off his helmet.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Mm-hmm.
If you look like Pedro Pascal, you got to take the helmet off.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right. Well, I'm glad you two could make it. I don't, Dustin. I'm here tonight because of Dustin.
Whoa!
Well, a long time ago, in my office, not too far away here,
wait a minute. A long time ago, in an office not too far away. Go on.
I was on this podcast, a regular one, talking to Dustin, and he was evangelizing the show Andor. And that was around the time, I believe, that the Book of Boba Fett was out, and I kind of just had it. And so I was like, nope, I don't care if it's good. I'm just not, it's not happening. I'm just out. I've had enough. I've given him too many chances. I've, let too many things slide, whatever. I'm sick of it. So, but then this whole big rigmarole around Daredevil came out, and it's like, okay, well, I'm reward with my dollars here that they're doing what I think is probably the right decision, and kind of restarting, bringing back the cast, all this sort of thing from a successful Netflix run. And it's like, I'm going to give that a shot. So I'm doing that, I'm getting Disney Plus again. Well, while I'm at it, let's try Andor, as Dustin has suggested. And lo and behold, I powered through that. And fortunately for me, I didn't have to wait too long for season 2. So, yeah. So that's why I'm here. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, I do remember bringing it up and just thinking he's got to see this. And I even considered just buying the DVDs and shipping them out to you just so I could have someone to talk to about it. But then I think the DVDs were still ridiculously priced. So I think luckily season 2 finally came out, and you've made your own decision to finally see it and understand why I loved it so much.
That's right.
John's path led to darkness and anger.
It did. And Andor brought him back.
It brought me back, yeah. We can all have our dalliances the dark side, but yeah. Okay, so how I want to do this tonight is we'll just give our impressions, what we think of season 1, just where we left off after season 1, what we kind of a recap of what we thought of that, We'll go around and do that. And then we'll go into season 2. Just give your overall, what you thought of season 2. Because often what we do is, we break down episodes a little bit, go through them, what we did, didn't like, is too many for that, to do that. We'd be here forever. So we just give your summation, and then we'll just dive into pieces we want to talk about, wherever that goes. And then when we've had our fill there, we'll kind of ask where this sits in the rest of Star Wars and that sort of thing. So what it means to Star Wars at large and such. So, Pete, we'll start with you. When did you see Andor immediately?
Yeah.
And season 1, how did you watch it? How did you come across it? And what did you think of it?
Season 1, Disney Plus came out, watched it religiously every week, and I thought it was really well done. I thought the first season of The Mandalorian was made exquisitely by people who loved Star Wars and were capable of bringing it to life and all the nuance and the detail. And I thought Andor was made with a very similar passion. It was a little different because I felt it was like 3 seasons crammed into 1 season. They just went radically different with the stories. But overall, the show was called Andor, and it featured Cassian Andor prominently, and everybody else was a secondary character, and there were some engaging secondary stories, and that's where I'll leave off for season 1.
Okay. Dustin?
Yeah, season 1, I think, came out, a little bit after the prime of like the Disney Plus Star Wars series, I think. I guess I don't remember what season Mandalorian was on when the first season of Andor came out, but I was still pretty into it. Because Mandalore got me into, maybe we can have series for Star Wars. This is cool. This is fun. And I think it kind of went down a little bit with other things coming up. And then Andor came and was just like hitting all the marks for me. I admit that the first couple episodes, like, I was intrigued by them, but they didn't blow me away.
It didn't scream Star Wars. It didn't have Jedi. It didn't have the Millennium Falcon, but this was still in the same universe.
Absolutely. But it still felt like, hey, this is something I can latch onto. And even in the first scenes when he's like looking for his sister and he kills those 2 corpo guards and he's just running and like the camera's panning away and all those lights and everything, like the composition was so well done that I was just like, okay, I'm in, because this feels like they're paying attention to making this look awesome. And then the storyline progressed, and like the 3 episode kind of arc that they were doing was just awesome. Once I got used to that kind of format of like the heist arc, those first 2 episodes are all just sitting and planning and talking, and yet I was like more into that than I've been into a lot of movies and series that are even out on like HBO and stuff. So I was super into it. And I think I do have a little bit different perspective in terms of where I came into Star Wars, which we've discussed previously, where I didn't like really grow up watching Star Wars a bunch. So like I kind of came in when Disney kind of took over and then like went back through everything and watched it all. But it felt like it hit that part of like kind of growing up in terms of the writing and the storytelling and like the seriousness of the universe compared to a lot more of the fun stuff that like is currently in like the Star Wars Disney canon and stuff. So basically I just felt like it nailed it, and I watched it multiple times, just like analyzing the scenes. I'm like, why are these so good? Why am I so enthralled? And then season 1 was over, and I had no idea when season 2 was ever going to come. And I almost thought maybe it wouldn't, but yeah,
Okay.
it's amazing.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess I'll give my take on season 1. Yeah. Season 1 was I think I remember texting Dustin like early on watching it, thinking this is why can I was mad that it's like, why have we not had this before? Why can we not have this? Like, why is this remarkable? It's for me something, because that is a discussion that's going around, is like, what makes something Star Wars? What is Star Wars? Why does this deserve to be in that? Does it have any of the hallmarks of Star Wars and all that sort of thing? And to me, I've wanted something like this ever since I read, I think probably this comic. So Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron. There's no talk of Jedi in this. There's no, it's a battle you're not familiar with. There are characters that are all new, like Wedge until he's on the cover, he's in there and stuff. But
he's not new.
yeah, but it's like, they're people getting their limbs blown off, and it's soldiers in war and stuff. It works for the Star Wars name, and the art is convincing. And then later on, I read the whole arc. I got picked up the other comics, and it's like, it's an intricate story of like people on a planet dealing with the Empire getting in their face, and like trying to deal with the villagers, and like there's like a spy somewhere in the mist, and it's like, that's what I want. That we have space for all the big Jedi Council and all those sorts of things, and it's a big galaxy. So Andor, I was pretty blown away and pretty shocked, because I'd heard other people talk about it and thought it was, they were sort of lukewarm about it, or who cares about this Andor guy? And I just ended up appreciating the character of Andor more, and then everyone else around him. So very impressed with season 1. Okay, season 2 is the latest hotness. So Pete, what'd you think of season 2 now that we're all concluded?
I think something happened between season 1 and season 2. Maybe I was concussed. It seemed like kind of like Ahsoka, where I tuned in because I wanted to see Ahsoka, and it turned out to be just a continuation of Star Wars Rebels, which isn't necessarily fair because a lot of her story was told in the animated series Star Wars Rebels. But I felt like really lost in Ahsoka. And so I stopped watching the series and went back and watched the animated series, and it had its ups and downs. But then I felt prepared to watch Ahsoka, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I would have had I not, gone back and done the homework. I've seen Rogue One multiple times. I watched Andor Series 1, and I was fucking lost with Andor Season 2. It kind of turned me off at the beginning. Like, Andor's held captives and there's a bunch of idiot rebels around him. I'm like, what? This is what we were waiting for? Like, I want him to be like the John Wick. I want him to be like almost superhuman, and he's dicking around on this planet with a bunch of hillbillies fighting over, rations and who's getting off the ship. And it's like, it's like, what was the Clint Eastwood movie? Was it the Fistful of Dollars, where he played one side against the other? And and then they developed other characters, but because for me Cassian wasn't adequately addressed at the beginning, I'm like, I don't don't have time for Mon Mothma and her whiny daughter and other things that were happening in the background. So I feel I failed somehow by not remembering everybody and everybody's name and motivation. Because there were times in the series, like episode 3 or 4, and I'm like, who the fuck are these people now? I'm like, oh, I vaguely remember you. And it's supposed to be that aha moment, that Easter egg where you're like, oh, I'm so excited because that's the real name of some Marvel superhero, whatever, when they say, oh, that's MJ. Oh, yeah, that's Mary Jane Watson, right? Oh, we do that. But it wasn't having that effect. It had the opposite effect. I'm like, God, you're somebody else I forgot from when I saw the series a couple of years ago. I probably would have benefited from watching like a 15-minute recap, which I discovered there was one.
Yes.
After I finished the series. So the awful part for me personally is that after episode 9, when Bix leaves and Andor's all alone, I go, well, that wraps it up. It wasn't really a satisfying ending, but that's the end of season 2. It makes sense. And a week or two went by, and everybody's talking about, oh, did you see the end credit scene? And I'm like, there was an end credit scene? What the fuck? And I go back and I'm like, there's 3 more episodes of this goddamn season. And then I check out the Easter egg, and it's an audio clip of John. Like, there's no Easter egg. Stop it. I was mad. So I'm the 1% or whatever on Rotten Eggs that didn't love season 2 of Andor. I thought it was beautiful to look at. A lot of dumb decisions, like they're trying to build the tension. Clea, who the hell's Clea? She seems like she should be somebody really important in like the ongoing Star Wars saga, but she only really gained prominence at the end of season 2, and she didn't want to leave. Well, we got to go. Stormtroopers are coming. I can't leave. Yavin, hate Yavin. They hate me. I'm like, this is all manufactured. You're gonna die. It didn't land for me.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have this conversation again in 5 years, and I'll watch it straight through like Johnny, and I'll be like, get it now. It's all fresh. It makes sense, and I don't dislike things now that I disliked before.
Okay.
Like the space
Dustin?
whales. The space whales were dumb the first time we saw them. The second time, like, they're still annoying, but it doesn't ruin the whole thing for me.
Right. I should write down some of the things you used. Well, I'll try to remember. I gotta come back to a couple things you said.
Are we recording this?
Dustin, what do you think of season 2?
Well, I will say, to preface everything, I did thoroughly enjoy it. It was good. I don't think it was as strong as the first season. And my feelings on that are probably because the first season felt more of like a contiguous, even though it spanned, I believe, a year or so and jumped a lot of different places and had those like 3-episode arcs. It felt like it spanned, a continuous set of events in terms of this is Cassian Andor, where he's at, where he comes from, and his background, in which he becomes a very important part of the rebellion, where beginning of season 1 doesn't want anything to do with that, just wants to live his own life. And at the end of season 1, he's in. He's fully on to like doing whatever he can to take down the Empire. And then season 2, has to span even greater length of time. I thought they did an amazing job with the writing and stuff because they were able to, cram in so much information without it feeling like a constant exposition dump. Even though sometimes they are, but they do such a great job of like not making it overly like in your face. But I think that's what made it suffer a little bit of like some of the gut punches and emotional moments that you're supposed to have didn't land as hard as they could have, because every 3 episodes it was kind of like a total reset. So you're building up to this big thing in that 3rd episode or the end of the 2nd episode, and it's like it is big, but I kind of like am still catching up with everything that's happened in the past 2 years or whatever that they're trying to tell you is leading to this moment. So I agree that it wasn't as strong as the first season, and they throw so much stuff at you that you really have to like. This isn't a movie you can just, or a show you can just watch off to the side while you're doing something, because you gotta pay attention, otherwise.
Put the phone down.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
turn it off.
So, I felt like they did a great job for cramming that much into that small of a thing, but I feel like things would have worked better if they, except for the first 3 episodes, which felt like an overly long arc. I feel like the rest of the arcs could have benefited from maybe having 4 episodes per arc, so that they could kind of get you to those points, because we'll get into it later with the spoilers, but like the big moments with like Deirdre and Cyril, like those didn't land as well as I thought that they could have, even though they were still like emotional and entertaining to a point. It was it was interesting. And then it just like went right into Rogue One, and I guess that's where it had to have ended. I guess
If they were only going to do 2 seasons, that's where it needed to end. I wanted
absolutely
more. I guess I wanted more of the Cassian and RX wacky adventures. I needed the buddy cop, the buddy hijinks, and we got a little bit of that. And not enough. We had raves in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, raves. Yeah, everybody's got them.
I need to look into it a little bit more, but someone at my job was saying that someone had pointed out that the DJ robot that's flying around at the wedding is like the same model as the torture robot in New Hope.
Yeah,
like that kind of thing for sure.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking like, okay, once the Empire took over, maybe no one had time for parties anymore, and they had all these massive amounts of DJ robots that they had to
repurpose.
And military grade. And...
I like it. Well, I agree in parts with that. I starting off season 2, I was a little concerned because it felt like they added moments of levity that weren't present in season 1, and I was a little concerned, like, did they get some feedback somewhere that this needs to be more Marvel like? Because just I get it, the ship crashing, kind of bouncing around, and then the bumbling idiots on Yavin, they kind of like, there are 15 of us. Do you have to tell them how many there are of us? Like kind of these things I just didn't feel like were in the first season and didn't need to be here. So that concerned me, but it went away. So I don't know what it was in the first arc there that they kind of had these moments, but
yeah, I kind of have my theories on that. And like I said, I felt like those 3 episodes could have been 2, maybe even 1. But I think they were just so stuck with trying to do the 3 episode arc for the whole thing that they kind of just had to fill in some stuff there. But I was wondering that first too. I'm like, okay, what's the point of this? And then it kind of figured out like, okay, well, if the ending of this has to go to Rogue One, where like it literally is forcing everybody's rebellious to finally like say it's now or never. We're moving as organized insurrection. Then where we need to start this season is that kind of like we got a hint with that with I've already forgotten his name. Forrest Whitaker's character.
Oh, Saw Gerrera,
Yeah, Saw Gerrera. Like they did a great job with that, but this is kind of also like a refresher of, hey, everybody might hate the Empire, but everybody is also too busy fighting each other and not really knowing what they're doing to make this have an impact. And they're even like detrimental to their own cause for other people from different groups. So like that kind of was, just a straight up metaphor of like, this is the entirety of the rebellion right now. They're so disorganized and they're so bumbling. And then they decide like, hey, now we have to kill each other. That like, there's just no hope for what needs to get done to reach that point of Rogue One.
Yep.
So I agree. It was too long, but it felt like that was like the benchmark for just letting you know like where the galaxy was at in their uprising.
No, I get that. And, that first arc too also makes me think that maybe they could have called the whole show something else because like you said before with Pete, with Ahsoka, I get it more for the show Ahsoka because we're generally pretty much following. I think we're pretty well following Ahsoka. But you pigeonhole yourself a little bit because you want to have other things going on, and it's vital to this show that you see other things going on. Like, yes, I'm interested in Cassian Andor's story, but I am also very interested in all the other people's stories. So I don't care that we're spending plenty of time with other people. But if the show's called Andor, you're setting yourself up to disappoint someone that's like, well, why is Andor stuck, captive to these guys for 3 episodes when we're busy with other people? Again, I don't care. Just the show should maybe be, Rebellion, a Star Wars story, or whatever. Take your pick. And then just, it can heavily focus on Andor. So critical piece moving into Rogue One, but we still have, that I think that's one of the messages here. This show is like how many it takes, the sacrifice of many here. So we need to see that. But season 2, I think to me got better. Like after that first arc, it kept getting better, and I thought it ended very well. I was really pleased with the ending, where a lot of people ended up. Some I expected, some I didn't. So I want to get into some of those things. It's like I think that I didn't see the Cyril Deidre relationship going that way. Like throughout,
Right.
it was very interesting. We took the aside to like figure out the relationship, and like made a point that she's not going to take anyone's shit and talks to the mom. And then, they have their awkward, like, just turn out the lights, kind of thing. And all this, and it leads to like, ultimately she's been using him. She cares for him, but she's been using him.
Is their relationship legit? I was never convinced.
I think it is. I think it is.
I think so.
In a weird way.
Yeah. I like how the whole backstory with like meeting the mom and whatever just gave a perfect reason for her to explain like she grew up as like a little munchkin in the Empire. Like she's always been 100% super Empire. And so like her not having a family and also being like totally fine with that and thinking that it was probably a good thing, just like perfectly outlined like what made her so cold, and like that's how she would address a relationship, like a romantic relationship. It's like, well, you got an hour, and then after that, you're gonna have to leave.
I'm not pro nudity, but maybe I needed a sex scene with them, right?
Oh God. Oh, God. I can only imagine how terrible
right?
that would have been.
You know, so very mechanical, loveless. I don't like loving in their own weird, awkward way.
So I am pro nudity, but I would be awkward. It would be awkward. Yeah, it would be awkward. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, I was sold of like turn the lights off. Like, what's that?
I felt like she was using him the whole time, like a spy, right? And like you're my sacrificial lamb. Like she said, you need someone to do the wrong thing at the right time. And I thought she was setting him up the whole time to be that person because he infiltrated the rebellion on with the Gormans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, we're waiting for the big twist where like you never mattered to me. You were my secret double agent. And by the way, I like robots. I'm asexual.
How did the timeline go down with that exactly? Because it seemed like they had their relationship before the project on Gorman, or is that not right?
I think it was. Here's the problem where I needed to do homework, right? When did it begin? Because Cyril left Ferrex and got a job because of his mom in the cubicle, but then he went above and beyond and caught Deidre's attention, and they kind of had a common goal, looking for Cassian and the Phantom Axis person. So they had that in common, and he showed like the puppy love, and he was enamored with her in his own weird, unsettling way, right? But I think that was
he saved her. He saved her, and I think that was the connection there. You know, because she was actually terrified, and he pulled her in when things were going to hell at Ferrex, and she was shaking, and like they were close, and whatever. So to me, it was then that the bond, because before she had no care for, she needed to use him for certain things, whatever. Otherwise, why do you keep showing up? Stay out of this, all this sort of thing. And then he saved her life. So, and now it's different. And so
that's my failure because I'd forgotten that part of their relationship.
Okay.
Too many weird series and too many years have come and gone between, and I just trusted my memory. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think she did care for him in her weird way. Like, he was a means to an end to certain things, but I feel like that scene when he's mad at her in episode 3 of the Gorman arc, and he's like, "You're keeping me in the dark, and we don't know what's going on," and she's like, she can't tell him anything, but then she seemed like excited to like, all right, I at least have to tell you, like, go home, pack up, we're gonna go home, we'll be together, we'll be rewarded. And she's like, she's excited to share what she can with him, and she's like, she wants to take almost her pet like home with her. And and then it goes the opposite way, and that was one thing that I felt like was a very missed opportunity. Like, we never saw her reaction to finally finding the news that, spoiler, Cyril died. Like, here I am, like, losing my mind when he dies. Like, can't believe it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm just waiting for that payoff of
she should have showed some grief over losing her boy toy.
Yeah, and she showed an ounce of regret
concerned
when the guy said like he's out there, and she's like, oh,
yeah. Get him
But
back in here.
I wanted to see that moment when it's like, it's almost like an FU to her to like see that she got him killed.
So I think I'm going to be a hypocrite here, because one of the things that bothered me was that the rebellion fell for every trick that Deidre put for the underground rebellion and the insertion of Cyril in that. And no guns. Like, he even said no guns, and then Ding Dong brought a gun, and like, we knew this was going to happen. I just got so mad, right? So it felt like these cliches, they kept falling for him. I just like, why? Why am I watching this? How do these guys ever win, right? But what I'm going to say now is I wanted the cliche where after Deidre, finds out that Cyril's dead, then she like doubles down her efforts, and that's why she makes the classic mistake of confronting Axis on her own. Says, "This is for me. This is for all who have suffered. You're gonna pay." Then she goes down the dark side. Maybe that would have set it up a little bit better, because earlier in the series she goes, "I'm not in it for the glory," and clearly she was, but just to bring it on home.
Well, she doesn't say she's not in it for the glory, really.
She does.
Her counterpart does. She's like, "I'm not in it for," and implying she is.
She specifically said, like,
when she says you can have all the glory.
Yep.
Says you can have all the glory.
Just gotta hit this
like,
guy.
Oh, later when she okay.
I think she says something about it in season 1 as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I
Perhaps.
don't remember. But yeah, you never know if that's true.
The thing you said about
things we say and things we mean, two different things.
Right. What sort of cliches were you talking about with them falling? Because the rebels
don't bring your gun. Don't bring a gun. And then
but they were trying. Right away, like what they sent Cassian to like take a look at the situation there. That was sort of the whole point of his thing, is like, these guys don't know what they're doing. Like they're making all the wrong calls. I like that scene a lot. That really kind of showed that Cassian's been doing this a while now, and it's kind of practiced. Like, you're only here because you got lucky that I'm on your side. All these things you're doing, drawing attention or whatever, is kind of spitting in their face, all this stuff that you're doing wrong. And that their point was like, well, look, we're out. We don't know how to run a rebellion. Mm-hmm. That's help us here. But we don't have other options right now. Like, we have to do something. And so this was, it just shows the difference again between the disparate parts of not the rebellion, just people that are fed up somewhere that are trying to make a stand and do something. And you'd have that all
standing up and doing something, they're making it worse. And there are people telling them, don't do this. It's the powerlessness, and as an audience member, and it's displayed in numerous characters in the show. We're trying to educate you, to show you, how to do this heist, or there are bad agents, bad actors in the crowd, and they're going to, we're all going to get massacred here, and it's going to be blamed on us, and we see it, a million miles away. It's like going to see Titanic in the theater. Well, we know the fucking boat's going to sink. Like, how can we stop this? And it's inevitable. The iceberg's coming, and all these people are going to die. And just having the prophecies, like, the people are like, this is what you don't do. Fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. Turn around, go back. It's a trap. Nope, it's going to be fine. And we're not, you
get the people that are in an untenable situation. Someone like Luthen's, like Orsa Guerrera, would be like, well, look, yeah, these people are probably all going to die. It's not going to work out for them. But this is a catalyst then to get others to react. Like, because they can't win. There's no winning for them. It's about the larger cause winning. Right. So, but the people on the planet, what are they going to do? If they don't do anything, then they just get walked over. Their planet gets destroyed. If they do something that amounts to violence and they're outmatched. If they do something in terms, I'm sure they've tried the political approach. Their
absolutely.
senator
That's
won't
the
speak
Mon
up
Mothma,
and can't
yep.
do anything, is trying to like, hey, we got to be cool, pump the brakes here. Doesn't matter. They're going to, so they're in an unwinnable situation. And so like, I forget, I think someone said it at some point in the show, like, if you die, at least you die knowing you did it fighting the empire. Like you went out with your morals.
made
You
a
went out
stand,
standing
yep.
for something, right? You
Yep.
know, like, and so that's gonna be Gorman. They're the, you know, they're the martyrs.
And that's kind of, you know, in a way, they're kind of limited to these kinds of stories to tell, because really you can't have a big we defeat the empire thing, because this is all leading up to just the first steps of them being able to defeat the empire. So it's like, it's really trying to, instead of making the ending be the thing that we latch onto, it's really exploring all the stuff of how we get there, and like seeing the propaganda machine and the years of planning and like back deals and things like that that they have to do to get to the point where they can blow up an entire planet and have, you know, little
To
to
maintain
no
control.
pushback from free thinking people in the galaxy. I thought it was very interesting. It was like a very, you know, honestly very scary in terms of like that stuff actually exists in real world too, and stuff like that. So it's like,
here's the
this
game
is,
plan. We're gonna manipulate public opinion against Gorman. Well, we already, you know, and it's unsettling how they laid it out and how it worked in the show, and you can see parallels in modern times. And I guess that's part of my distaste, is they then say like, hey, here's a successful way to avoid
that's true.
this.
We didn't get the blueprint for how to fight against it,
Right.
and we watch stories so we can get like survival information, and we just got information about how to fail and have one guy be successful.
Well,
now we need
then
hokey
he dies.
religions and laser swords. And
when you have, you know, like the alternative options for a kind of rebellion would be, you have these people all over the galaxy, or, you know, in our time, all over the country, all over the world, whatever, that poke holes. You know, like the diplomatic, the legal process has failed, and so you start poking holes places or whatever, and it has to be enough that it emboldens people to either change votes and overturn something, or makes people that are elected afraid enough of their population that they have to change. But we know in this case that it has to go all the way. It has to be utter defeat, because they have a parallel to a nuke and they're not afraid to use it. So it's like, we don't have the luxury of like poking enough holes, creating enough fear amongst those in power that they ultimately like step down and, you know, things are turned over. It's got to be, no, we're going all the way. We have to completely decimate you, because all due process is out the window.
Yeah, the Emperor dissolves the Senate in fear
Yeah.
the space station will keep the planets in a line. Fear, you know?
And I love, you know, I love the way this is. I don't know. It's smartly done. You know, I listened to a lot of Tony Gilroy talk now and stuff, and it's like reading about all different revolutions. You know, he calls out the French Revolution a lot, and in this one, obviously they base the Gorman language on French. They got all French actors to play those people.
Really cool.
It sounds very French. And, you know, I think that's what works about the show, is that that's what I like. One of the things I really appreciate the restraints they have, because they don't do direct parallels. Like if you do direct parallels, you immediately date your project. It's stuck to a moment, and then it's not necessarily held truthful to people generations on. If you take something, you're taking pieces from all over the place, you hopefully find some sort of truth. And so you can have something that in 30 years time, someone can watch this and like, yeah, feel like we're going through this, or feel like we went through this 100 years ago, or I just read about this in whatever history book. Like you got to find that truth. And I think they do that well here. Yeah. I'll have a chat in YouTube here. Okay. It's Clan Brandalorian. Oh, what's good, fellas? New here. What do you guys think of the series overall? We kind of went over our little recaps earlier on, just in like summation. I know I loved both seasons. Dustin likes season 1 a little more than season 2, and Pete's a little cooler on season 2.
Pete has notes
quite a bit.
But overall,
I'd watch
amazing.
it again, and I think I'd enjoy it more if I watched it again.
I feel like
But
I
have
need to watch it a second
season
time.
1 through season 2, I'd have to start at the beginning. But then it's interesting because it doesn't end there. You can, what is it? The Clone Wars that picks up right after Mon Mothma was evacuated from Coruscant. And so if you want to see what happens, I've been seeing this in social media. Like, hey, yeah, this is her during escape.
I don't understand that. Clone Wars is many years prior.
Not Clone Wars. It was a different animated show. So maybe it was Rebels. I think I took a screenshot of it.
Rebels does take place. Well,
that's earlier,
right.
too, isn't it? A little bit earlier.
Here we go. Try and give Star Wars Rebels Season 3, Episode 18 a watch after you watch Season 2, Episode 9 of Andor. So, and it takes place right after, and is called Secret Cargo. So, like I was saying, this is a homework series. It helps.
You don't need to watch that. No, I disagree. I mean, it can add flavor, but
this is in total alignment with what I said before. When things don't land, and people are like, oh, well, this was a really good callback. And if you don't get that callback, if you don't have that depth of information, then it's wasted on you. And then you get a reaction like mine. I'm like, how does everybody love this? It was okay. It was okay.
See, but what callback? Like the only callbacks to me in this were to itself. Like at the end, we get the audio log of the guy from season 1 that's like putting out his his manifesto. Yeah, that's spreading. It's like, oh, that's cool. That guy meant something, and his words actually got out there. That's a powerful moment, like it. But it wasn't that's one of the things I love. It wasn't referencing other parts of Star Wars. It wasn't like, oh, see this droid from here, or oh, that alien from there, or oh, this phrase from this show. Like they didn't do hardly any of that stuff. It was contained. No one ever said like, I've got a bad feeling about this. I don't think anyone said that a single time.
C3PO even watching Rogue One, the movie afterwards. And they do all those little things where it's like Jyn Erso bumps into the guy who bumps into Luke Skywalker in the bar and stuff like that. It was like totally unnecessary, but absolutely like the early Disney stuff that they just had to shove into everything. This is.
Do you want me to tell the odds of survival? We did that. We showed R2 and C3PO. We did. Definitely, I got a bad feeling about this, but they cut it off with the doors over and over. And a movie I still like, but it's like, can we just not with the tropes, So if you got any examples, Pete, from this, I thought it was a high point of like things where they had to call back to other Star Wars to throw
not call back to
whatever.
So, if you recall, I like season 1, but saw
Mhm.
season 1 several years ago. And there were
Right.
several other Star Wars series between then. My memory's a little bit foggy of season 1. And the importance of certain characters and their relationships was lost on me. And I could have benefited by doing homework, as I said before, even if it was watching a 30-minute, recap of season 1. Likewise, there are characters in Rogue One, Melshi. I'm like, oh, I bet this guy's important. I don't know who the fuck he is, but I've probably seen him a couple times. So yes, to your point, if you are current and up to date and fresh on season 1 and Rogue One, you're not gonna have any problems. It's self-referential in that instance. However, there was and this is one off the top of my head. I can do more homework, but that's what we're talking about, John. Is you need to do homework to get all of the jokes, whether you're just watching season 1 or Rogue One. But when they're talking about the flight plan, they talk about the odds. Do you know, success rate? Or they're having that banter back and forth.
in season, it was on season 1.
Season 2, when they're taking off and they're going to go rescue Mon Mothma, I think. Or no, because they did have the flight plan then. Nope, it's the last episode, and they're heading to investigate the Kyber crystals in Rogue One. And he's like, we have a flight plan. You know how that makes me happy. And then he does talk about the odds, and he's like, do you want me to tell the odds? He goes like, no. And then he tells them anyway. He's like, 1 out of 17 or whatever the joke is. And I feel really unprepared for this. But yes, to your point, does it have a lot of references from episode 1 through episode 12 of the films? No. But is there some of that? Yes. So my frustration is that it is a series that if you aren't up to speed, you will lose a lot of the impact. So for me, it was not certified fresh 89% or whatever it is on Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't a 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. It was okay. And if I watch it again, I'll give you a different review. But as of right now, it didn't nurture me along in a way that made it enjoyable.
I do think that the episode recaps on shows are really important. Like
Absolutely.
if you do a bad job of them, then that can be an issue. Like I almost never skip those because it'd be like watch a game, Game of Thrones, or watching Mobland. I don't skip it because if all of a sudden they show a clip from 2 seasons ago, I'm like, oh, that's important for some reason. Now
it's exactly what they do on The Last of Us on HBO, right? Max. Sorry.
Yes, you've got to.
We watch it every Sunday, and I'm like, I'm going to watch this, and they will say, oh, here's a character, like you had just said, a moment from the first season, and there's going to be a callback in this episode to that moment. And if you don't have that fresh in your mind, it is lost on you. So
I will say, usually, I feel split between when there's like the recaps, because like you show me a clip of something, I'm like, okay, I know that's coming up. And if it's like a minor detail that they want you to remember, then I'm like, I did remember that detail, so now I know that it's going to come up, which kind of bothered me. That totally happened with when Deidre goes to finally confront Axis, and she's like going to show, she's got her box. I'm like, oh, it's in there. And that was the one time, usually not a big deal with watching those recaps. But that was the moment when I was like, oh, I really wish, because I would have remembered the Star Path unit that started it all. And I would have really liked that little reveal. But because they just showed one little...
That's funny.
1 second
I was
clip.
Uncertain.
I was like, damn,
I was like, is that the thing from like last season? I think I remember that. And I don't do drugs, so you can't blame the booze. Can't blame the booze and the drugs. So, But I'm usually really good at remembering details like this. But
I mean, I will say that they did a good job of like making it look like it was old and blasted apart from the battle, whereas like any other show would
Good
have
point.
just had it look identical because they'd be so afraid that you wouldn't be able to remember where it came from. But yeah, I mean, that was a great scene.
But yeah,
That's
that's
like,
assigning that weight to that item. That was her holy grail. That is what led her to believe that, hey, why is this here? What is its significance? And then she started going beautiful mind and pulling all the pieces together and
absolutely
developing her profile. Like, there is a master manipulator here. We'll call him Axis because he's the center of all of these things being stolen and coordinated.
And that's where it comes into play for me for like the shortness of this all. Like moments like that, I feel like could have been deepened so much more if, throughout the season, we're given a little bit more time to show that, like, even though she's doing this stuff over here, she's got this like almost relic or this corner dedicated to Axis and everything that she's still like obsessed with or something like that. Leading to that moment would have been like amazing, or even more stuff to like show the fragmentation in Deidre's and Cyril's relationship leading up to the point where he's literally choking her. I was like, whoa, that accelerated really quickly. Which I feel like was something that could have been meaningful and like led to that point. And they did just enough so you understood why he was doing it for the most part. But like you only get a few scenes of him like showing their dissonance before it ramps up to that. So it's like, that's why I feel like we just needed at least one more hour of scenes to be able to get everything to the point so that like you could put in those little crumbs that stepped you up rather than each episode being like, oh, okay, now I have to fill in the gaps. This is what happened since then. And obviously they're not friends anymore, but we didn't get to see that. So now we have to fill it in, which I'll give them kudos that the way that they wrote allowed me to figure out where it was. But I would have liked to see those in-betweens as well, because then it would have felt more impactful. That's really my biggest takeaway with the whole season is just I wish it had more time. Like it could have been 3 seasons, and I think they would have been able to cut down on the things that they didn't need and inflate the really interesting aspects.
Well, so I guess I disagree with the Cyril and Deidre part. I really liked the moment where he snaps. I thought that was well done because he's like everything he thought he was doing. It's like his whole life became a lie. Like everything.
Yeah.
She's betrayed him, and
order.
He's an absolute true believer in what he's been doing. And to have like he really is the one that isn't looking for the accolades. He really is in it for the cause. And when he's there now as a pawn to assist, instead of maintaining order, to assist like genocide or ripping the planet apart for an energy project. Like it's just that's his life is done. So I really like that, but I do agree that my biggest problem with season 2 is the time jumps. Just for the kind of disjointed nature we end up feeling here. Yeah, P, I can hear and see you. So
nice. Good.
I'll
put my shirt back on then.
Okay. It also then I think that what you mentioned, Dustin, before. Oh, now Pete's gone though. What you mentioned before, hopefully he comes back in here. What you mentioned before was, oh, here we go. Seeing him come back. There we go. Hey. where at the end of season 1, Cassian is like, I'm in. And then we sort of go, it feels like we go backwards. And I'm waiting for Cassian to decide that he is all in for way longer than I need to. Like, it doesn't need to take so long to me for him to be all in with the rebellion, as opposed to kind of wishy-washy throughout. So I didn't like that. And then the humor moments at the beginning. Those are really my 3 big issues with season 2. But I ultimately forgive them at the end. They talked that they originally mapped out this to be 5 seasons. That was the plan.
Whoa.
So 5 seasons. Yeah. So you didn't have the time jumps then. It'd be like the time jumps between seasons. But as Tony Gilroy already says, this has been 10 years of his life. And the Disney has put in like $600 million into making Andor, which is
Wow.
insane. They will no way recover that cost. I'm grateful that they decided to just throw this money away because got what we got, but there's no way they're making that back. I don't think.
They didn't even try to have like Happy Meals and action figures.
I know. Well, see, but I've always thought that before. Different things like, should you have a Happy Meal for different things? It's like, that's not really for kids. They did that for even Lord of the Rings. It's like Lord of the Rings is a little intense for a Happy Meal toy, or something.
I think they could, have like little wax characters of Jin and Andor on the beach, and then you can melt them away.
Put the microwave or under a magnifying glass.
Yes. Well, that was part of my thing is like, well, did they just can't spend any more money at all, so they don't make anything? Because you go to the Star Wars shop and there's basically nothing for it. It's
strange.
Meager.
I mean, I'm really hoping that, they can just look at all the buzz from it and be like, okay, I know we don't really understand it, but let's try and see why people like Andor more than the other stuff that we keep making.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that it'll be a light in the darkness that someone at least can. Nope, Pete left. That someone can point to for future projects, but I don't know. I haven't really kept up on like what future things are even coming. So yeah,
I mean, I guess I don't hold out hope for anything else. The way I look at it is like so a few years back, I've given up on Doctor Who. It's like it was a kind of downward trajectory for a while. I kind of stuck with it, for maybe longer than I should. It's like, this is just not what it used to be. But then there was a Christmas that came around and there was a holiday special on TV that I hadn't seen with Matt Smith. I'm like, how did I miss this one? What happened? So it was like this to me, it was like brand new Doctor Who, peak time. Awesome. Great. And so it was just this little shining moment. And that to me is Andor, but it's not just like a moment. This is like, what? 8 movies worth of content.
Yeah.
It's a lot. There's a lot of story told here, right? A lot of attention, a lot of detail. Like I was satisfied with 3 Star Wars movies for many years and then books and stuff after that or whatever, So I feel spoiled now in the sense, honestly, that I have this much extra Star Wars content that I love. And I've said before, and other people have brought up now, like we have a new trilogy. I was saying to Dustin, like maybe this is an argument could be made. Watch Andor season 1, season 2, Rogue One, and A New Hope, and that's Star Wars. Like, because the whole thing is leading up then how the rebellion is built, what rebellions are like, and what pushes people to rebellion. And then how do we fight back against that? Oh, there's this giant weapon that's like the ultimate thing we're gonna have to deal with. How we find out how we destroy that, and then we do destroy it. Story's over, like it's done.
That was the original idea.
Think so?
Well, and then they sold a lot of Happy Meals and glassware and action sets and figurines and.
I mean, yeah, but that's not true though, because
It's
George has
true.
always talked about
This is
9
the way.
movies. George Lucas is always talking about 9 movies, and they gave him the, like, hey, you can make 3.
He talked
So-
about 9 movies, but the first movie, original release, was just Star Wars. There was no A New Hope Episode 4 originally.
Right. He didn't know if he'd be able to even make more. Like, everybody
Right.
thought this thing was going to fail to begin with. So, like, good luck making any more of them. But he pitched more than one. He pitched more than one, and he said, I got to do this or whatever. And he chose to not start at episode 1 because this is like he probably figured he wouldn't be able to make those other ones. So this is the important part I have to tell. So that's why he started in the middle. It wasn't like a grand plan that I prefer it to be told this way. Good choice. Yeah.
It could have been bigger if they started on a different. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Connor Williams in the chat here says a chemistry set that lets you produce huffable rhydonium would sell.
That gave me a great idea of where they can go from here. Is they do a time jump back, and we have a Breaking Bad series with Saw Gerrera, and I forgot that character's name already, but
yeah.
Walter White,
I think him.
Saw Gerrera White.
And there'll be some kind of stormtrooper named Hank that's just always trying to get him.
Cyril's dad. Get him in.
There we go. Yeah.
That
Connor also
that
says
his mom was always talking about. He's out for blood.
Yeah, the uncle.
I forgot I could do this. Connor also says Andor season 2 has revitalized my love for all things Star Wars, all the EU Legends books, comics, and companion novelizations. The show reminding me why I cared about this franchise to begin with. Amen, good. Connor.
I agree.
Amen.
And I also would take it even a step further that it's also somewhat ruined me for some other Star Wars stuff. Just in terms of like the writing just was so. I always reiterate how much I love the writing in the show and how smart and like effective it is. And then you go back to things like, I know there's people who like the Ahsoka. I was a fan of Ahsoka when she was in all the animated series, but the live action did not land for me. And
did you do the homework?
I feel like I had enough homework. Like I had seen and remembered Rebels and stuff like that. There's probably some stuff that I could refresh, but at the same time, like coming off of Andor, where every episode I just felt like, oh man, that was like so well done. And then going to Ahsoka and just being like, something about this scene like isn't hitting the right spot or not entertaining, or these characters just still somehow don't feel like they match the characters that I've come to know as the animated versions. Like they just never really hit with me. But then I always had Andor to go back to, and I was like, okay, this is just miles above, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
no question.
Absolutely. Acolyte, I was excited. I'm like, okay, they're really going to just try something fresh and new. And I don't even remember how many episodes they got in on that, but I was just like...
Acolyte to Star Wars for me was like John's favorite vampire series was to vampires.
Which
wait, my favorite. Oh, you talking
Johnny
Twilight?
Loves Twilight so much. He's part of the Robert Pattinson fan club. That's why the Batman is his favorite Batman.
No, definitely not the reason there. But my favorite vampire series is a comic book series called Dracula, and I have the first hardcover book of it. and part 2 is coming soon or whatever. So it's probably my favorite vampire thing, by Kelly Jones.
Really?
So let's see. Connor's another thing here. The writing is so economical. Yes, there's a lot of talking, but there's not an ounce of fat on any of these scripts. There is so much pathos in every line of dialogue communicates something. Yeah, I think that, if we got in the 5 seasons, would we end up with some bloat then? I do like how this really is not wasting a lot of time, other than maybe what we talked about with Andor being stuck too long with the people on Yavin. It moves along, tells the story it wants to tell. And to your point earlier, Dustin, I think that I watched Rogue One after this, and immediately, even watching Rogue One, it's like, wow, the pacing between a show that I'm used to now and then a movie is jarring. That how quickly they have to, one thing to the next. We're just like planet to planet to planet, and I get it, but kind of used to sometimes now a show that's dealing in the minutia of things that you can take the time on something, and then you're forced into a movie that's got to hit the 2.5 hour mark or whatever. And it's very different. And now I need to watch A New Hope, and I'm kind of terrified too, because I haven't watched any of the Star Wars movies in a very long time. Just because the original trilogy, for sure, I've seen so much. And it's like, am I gonna even appreciate it at this point? Or am I just gonna appreciate it more in my memory? Because I already, there's cheesy stuff and whatever in there. It's like, I'm worried it's not gonna land the same. And I'm just gonna come out here saying Andor is just the best Star Wars there is. And if that feels sacrilegious for me to say. So
I think you should trust the Force, Johnny.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It'll be just fine.
I think you can hold off on it until you can watch it with your kids, and then it'll be a whole new set of memories of watching them lose their mind when things happen, and then you'll kind of regain some of that nostalgia. But in the present moment,
that sounds nice, Dustin, but my dad sat me down when I was a kid. He's like, you like Star Wars, well, watch this science fiction show with me. This scared the heck out of me when I was a kid, and the special effects are dynamite. And it was War of the Worlds, and I'm like, this is dumb. These special effects are so cheesy. I hate you, Dad. So get ready for that heartbreak, man.
That was the genesis of it, was sitting down the Star Wars as one.
Yeah, or he wanted to share something with me that he loved when he was a kid. And
sure,
because it visually, the effects and the film itself, the quality of the film, the stock of the film was so dated that it just didn't look good, right? Compared to
now,
Star Wars.
Here's the problem. Not to poop on your dad, but here's the problem: is he didn't keep you in a cave, and
true, right?
And make sure that this was the breaking age graphics.
And also, a lot of the things that he liked were black and white, and I was just too cool to take anything black and white seriously. And now, you sit down in front of Twilight Zone, and it's so much better than a lot of the horror fantasy series that you're going to watch now. It still holds up. I just got to get over myself, right?
Yeah, not that a little kid can do this, but I have found myself like, you can tell me a movie is good, and I can go watch it and be like, okay, I've learned enough now to see things that might be considered good, but I still sometimes need like the context of everything. Like, there's been a lot of movies and other stuff, like video games and things like that, in terms of the timeline and the history of when it came out, that explain more why it was so prominent when it came out, because it's like maybe no movie before this showed somebody, or like hinted that somebody committed suicide or something like that, or there might have been restrictions on movies that like you couldn't have a certain violent image or something like that, so like they were like stopped from doing this. Like I'm thinking of Sunset Boulevard, and in that movie they had so many restrictions on portraying or even talking about suicide. So they had to come up with such creative ways to kind of like hint like this character lost it and they're going to go commit suicide. And it was like, the idea was that they had to take off all the doorknobs on all of the doors in her house, because at any moment she could go into a fit and to go try and commit suicide. And then everyone has to go she can't be able to lock herself. So then later on, when she's distraught in the movie and she runs off into a door and slams it, then it just zooms in on where the door handle would be. And you understand the context of like, okay, that is fantastic writing. That is like creative movement from limitations. That might not be the best example of what I was trying to get at, where like the context of the history that went into it. But I feel like that, going back to black and white old special effects movies, like when you go into a movie thinking like no one had ever seen anything like this before, and like people ran out of the theater screaming because they thought a stop motion monkey was gonna come smash them in the face or whatever, like that lands a level of excitement and like awe to appreciate something. So it's like going back to your kids, maybe they'll love it, maybe they won't. I don't know. Maybe you gotta wait till they're even older.
I think it depends on the age as well. My kids are watching the Ewok show right now, and they love Ewoks. So
nice.
Connor also says, I love how we got so much Coruscant material, and Andor the Mandalorian tried to do Coruscant justice, but the volume just doesn't provide the same scope as physical sets and locations. I raved about this just in season 1. I just like, it's this Star Wars fans' dream come true to see Coruscant in this way. Like, you know, I mean, it's a famous moment now, whatever, from season 1, but with Luthen talking to his spy, like down in the belly of Coruscant, he comes all down the elevator and stuff like that, and gives his speech and stuff. And not only is it an amazing speech, but I was just watching it, appreciating how damn good it looked. Like it was such a good shot. Like the guy stuck in, framed in the elevator with the light coming down on him, but then go outside and you got the wind blowing against Luthen and stuff like that. It's just, I never thought we'd get to see this level of detail of different places like Coruscant. Just being in the apartments and the different tools and cooking things and whatever. They have different gadgets for stuff that they came up with. Later in season 2, there was something they were using in Luthen's office. Is like, what is that little instruments? Like all the stuff they did for the dials and the rate, everything, the detail everywhere and all these places just is absolutely everything I'm looking for. And then we went to planets we didn't really deal with before. Also, that's huge. Like every time we go back to Tatooine, it's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
And then the sequel trilogy starts and you're on just another desert planet that looks like Tatooine. Yeah. You have you can do whatever you want. And like, what is wrong with you people? And so this series, we had the mix. We got the delve in the depths of Coruscant. We got to, spend a little more time on Yavin and the different huts they got put together and stuff. We got to learn Mon Mothma's background, and they built a culture around it. Like they get fleshed out her planet. My new cheers is Sigrona. That's what I will be saying now, because that's Gendrillan cheers. So it's like this is just, it's just everything, like it's got all the stuff. And
that was great, but the one thing that really bothered me is that we didn't get to see all of like the teenage biker gangs.
Stop.
Like those.
That's
the
point.
Star Wars I know and love, and they just didn't have them. So
If you would have told me that there was a Boba Fett series, and at the end of the series, Boba Fett's going to be riding on a Rancor, and the series would suck, I'm like, that doesn't compute. How?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. How you feel? So, I mean, that was really the failure to begin with. This, like, it should have just been a Boba Fett limited series before any sort of Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is Boba Fett. Like, let's just do that. And they didn't go that route. And I was like, okay, it turned out for season 1.
Worked.
We probably should have just left Boba Fett alone then, I guess. You know, if you were gonna, like, you clearly didn't understand the character.
Didn't have Boba Fett, and you didn't have IG-88, but you had Boba Fett and IG-88, and it was a 13-year-old's wet dream. It was awesome.
God. Like,
and then they were in a buddy cop. Oh yeah, that was great.
Incredible. Thank you for contributing here, Connor. They made Gorman, Ferrix, and Aldani so memorable. I couldn't tell you a single planet they went to in Kenobi or Ahsoka except Lothal because of Rebels and Alderaan.
Yeah, the amount of time and effort they put into understanding and creating like a culture and a community in all of those places, like, went so far above and beyond most places for like a setting. Like, it made those places feel important that these things were happening there. Like, it wasn't just, well, this is a junk planet. Cool.
Yeah.
It was, when you die, your ashes get made into a brick and we do a parade and we put you in the wall. And
it's good world building,
It's,
any fantasy series or sci-fi series, if you have a setting, you can tell when they take the time to develop the world, and then it's just so easy to get immersed in that. And I agree that Andor is very entertaining to watch. They're visually, there's a lot of nuance, not only architecture but fabric. Even when they're on, when Bix is, the gladiator homage with the field of wheat and holding the child, and like, you could think like this is the breadbasket of the galaxy. Like, this is this planet's purpose, right? It's just like from horizon to horizon, they're just growing wheat.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I said we talk from 8:30 to 10, and it's now 10 o'clock. So, we should definitely do another part because really barely scratched the surface. A lot of things I want to talk about in this show. We didn't talk about really the ISB much, like Deidre's commanding officer, and talk about
the Maester. No, he wasn't a Maester. What was he in Game of Thrones?
Oh, really?
He was a Maester, wasn't he?
Not a Maester. He was the Sparrow, right? Not the Sparrow.
Oh, no, he wasn't the Sparrow.
No,
he was a Maester.
Terrible show prep. Terrible show.
He had the black robe and the chains and everything.
You're right. He was a Maester.
Okay.
I was thinking he was the leader of the religion.
The Sparrows.
No, that's Jonathan.
Yeah, that's
Jonathan,
the other actor. See, terrible show prep, John. You got to do your homework. We didn't really talk a lot of the different story beats. Mon Mothma and her daughter, her whole like deal with like her friend, and then him having to get axed. Put it in the extras.
How dare you? How dare you?
Okay, so she sold her daughter off to fund the rebellion and keep herself from being executed. That is worth a mention, but that's not my Star Wars. I'd rather see Ewoks go fishing.
Wow.
I absolutely love the line when Luthen's telling her that the price. You'll have to be protected.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That must be nice for you. I was just
back to Connor's point.
We're back.
Amazing lines.
Yeah.
Cassian's line when Cyril finally gets him. And Cassian's like, "Who are you?"
Yeah. That was so good. That was okay. So I think out of everything that happened in the season, that moment was the most crazy for me, because I've ever since his first scene of his like commanding officer making fun of him tailoring his clothes, and like he's so much more dedicated than anybody else on the entire planet or in that corporation. Like, he's been by far my favorite character, and I know he's like on the bad side, but at the same time, like, they do so much to make you just like invest in where he's going and what he's doing. And I half expected that maybe at some point he might almost join the rebellion or something, and he did like lower his weapon and decide, like, you know, I'm after everything, like, I'm not even, I can't even say that you're the bad guy.
I'm still gonna fuck up a Cassian if I ever see that motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, he was losing his mind, and he saw him, and they fought. But then, like, right before he got shot, he lowered his gun, and then, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?" Like, I don't know. I haven't had a reaction like that since maybe Pedro Pascal died on Game of Thrones. Like,
okay,
Sierra says spoilers at the bottom. Oh man,
yeah.
I think that was the last time I was invested in a character and then losing them. So
I told John and Ashley I was so excited for the. And this is when it was only a game, like, Last of Us, the next game. Oh, and Ashley's like, "You haven't heard?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Oh, do you want to know?" I go, "No, don't give me any spoilers." She's like, "All right, well, just so you know, people are a little upset." I'm like, "Well, some people are stupid." And then as soon as that happened in the game, I'm like, I'm walking away. I don't fucking care what happens.
Really?
Mad.
Did you not play the rest of the game?
So mad.
Oh my god. But that's the point.
You to play as Abby? I'm like, oh, this is gross. No.
That's the point. You have to be so mad that you're willing to go and play the next 10 hours wanting to do everything in your power to murder everybody.
Rage quit, my friend.
Oh my god.
I can't believe divisive.
I can't believe you missed out on one of the best video games.
I slept well. Like, I've chosen right. This is.
But now that I get it. I understand. I understand why people are completely upset, but I also understand that, you know, it wouldn't have had the impact that it had in the story if it was just like, oh, they shot him in the knee. Like, I don't know. But I get it. I still love that game and that whole series, which I haven't even. We won't get into it, Last of Us, but I haven't even watched the show much because it's just like, like I already experienced it all. So,
right.
As far as I can tell, it seems like it's going pretty much
according to the game.
I don't know because reviews in season 1 were quite high. Reviews in season 2 are pretty mixed. So
because of the big twist.
I don't think so. I don't think that's happened yet. I don't think it's happened yet. So, anyways, so there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, Andrea is presently in the middle of season 1, and it's taking her a while, you know, because her and Chris are watching it together and stuff like that. So, at some point, she'll get all the way through season 1 and season 2. I'm considering, just because I love it so much, and I'm, you know, talk Star Wars that I love in so long, that after she's done with season 1, have a show about season 1 specifically, and then do a season 2 as well. For Father's Day, I told Ashley my gift can just be that she has to watch the first arc of season 1 of Andor with me. That's all I need. So, there you go, Ewing, nice.
Yep, and you can even open it up. I would have died for this when I was a kid, so that was the only reason I had to buy it now as an adult. But like all the little minifigures sitting here.
Yeah, who's in there? Is it
K2SO, Andor, and Jyn Erso?
Okay, nice.
And like, They put more detail into the toys sometimes than they do their scripts.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, Johnny, I
Okay.
got to sign off.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate it a lot. It's good
Yeah,
to talk
thank
to
you for having
you. We'll have another episode. Thank you, Connor Williams, for being here and contributing to the chat. Appreciate a follow. Means a lot. And yeah, Pete is an author, Peter J. Gilbertson. Make sure you look him up. His books are sold on Amazon. He's got like horror and creepy kinds of stories.
Whoa.
Audiobooks available now?
Pete, how did I not ever know this about you?
I'm a man of many stories.
Oh, dear God. We got to talk more.
All right, buddy.
So yeah, everybody check that out, especially Dustin now, Peter J. Gilbertson.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So thank you, and we'll see everybody next